In this live stream, I'm going to be sharing with you what the 10 most popular water filtration systems in North America are, what they are, how they work, and why families just like yours have chosen them to fix their city, lake, or well water at their home, cottage, or cabin. And it all starts right now. Hi, I'm Gary the Water Guy, and I simplify water filtration to help you conquer crappy water for your family. Water filtration has become a priority for families all across North America. City water is often hard and has lots of chemicals in it like chlorine, chloramines, and other chemicals. And well water has sulphur, iron, tannins, and again is often hard. And then we have lake water, which has bacteria, tannins, you know, that weak tea color. And we also have to be concerned about a lot of sediment in lake water. And now there's a huge concern about our drinking water everywhere, whether we're on city well or lake water. And so we need to know how to fix it. And so the purpose of this live stream today is to share with you the most popular fixes of the year. Now, whether you're watching this live and participating with us today or on the YouTube replay, welcome. The advantage, of course, of watching this live is you can participate with your questions and comments, and that way I can sort of slant this presentation based on the comments and the questions that I'm being asked. The replay will have a ton of information, and even for you folks that have participated in the live stream, you can go back and you can watch it again and again to replay that information. And I'm going to put links in the description down below to a lot of the videos and a lot of the things I'll be talking about, and a lot of the products we'll be talking about too, so you can check that out after the live stream is finished. And so you have the opportunity to ask some questions. So if you look at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, that's where you can add your questions, and I'll be getting to them on a timely basis. And when you're asking those questions, feel free to introduce yourself too and tell folks where you're from. We often have people chiming in from all over the place, and you could definitely encourage you to do that. And this is what you're seeing on the screen. And like I said, on the right-hand side at the bottom of the screen, that's where you can participate with your comments and your questions. And so before the live stream started, I put a poll up, I guess about a week and a half ago, and asked the question, you know, this is what we're going to be talking about today. And the question was, what do you think is going to be the most popular water filtration system of the year? And a whole bunch of people voted. You can see reverse osmosis came in at 49%, and you can see the other votes here. I'll tell you right now, you're wrong. The popular vote is wrong. But bear with me here, and you'll find out what number one is. And of course, we're going to count down from number 10 to number 1. And at the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a blue field. And I'm asking you to vote during this live stream, participate in the poll. And of course, the question that I'm asking there is what type of water do you think we offer the most treatment for city water, well water, or lake water? And we'll be checking back in throughout this, and we'll see how everybody is voting. And I encourage you to do that. And so I guess the big question is, where am I getting the data from for the 10 most popular water filtration systems of the year? And from our websites, waterestore.ca in Canada, waterestore.com in the US. And so someone asked a question a little bit earlier, and they said, you know, is this going to be just for Canada, or is it just going to be for the US? It's all through North America. And so we're asking, we're presenting the information. We've totaled up all the sales from the last year, and we've looked at what's number 10 back through number 1. So, when you put in your comments and your questions, I'm going to flash them up on the screen. It'll probably look something like this. So someone asked, like I say a little bit earlier, they said if this is going to be a US and Canadian or just Canadian, and I said it's yes, they do. It's for both. So, all right, let's see if we've got some questions up there already. And we'll go here, and got Mopar Scott up here. Hey, Gary in chat. Hey, thanks for participating. Great to see you, have you come out. And we've got Newfie 20. Again, welcome. cool in chat, I guess. Yeah, absolutely. So great. Keep those chats coming, and we'll get on with the presentation here. So number 10 is our Hume FOC 1.0. And if you're not sure what that is, that's a sulfur and iron filter. So we're having lots of folks are complaining about sulfur smell in their water. Now this is from well water we're talking about here. This is not city water, it's not lake water, well water. That's that rotten egg smell. So sometimes you go to a cottage or someone that's on a well and you notice the water doesn't smell that great. And that's sulfur in the water. And so this has become a very popular for folks, especially in the U.S. and Texas, and we're getting a lot of work in this, especially in the Texas area, in the U.S. and throughout Canada too. And so that's basically how they work: is they suck in air as your water goes through the system. It aerates, and so that sulfur smell, it's not actually in the water until it hits your air. As soon as it comes out your faucet and hits the air, that's when that smell is brought out. So what happens is inside this tank, there's a big air bubble in there, and your water sprayed across that air bubble, which oxidizes or brings out the sulfur. And if there's any iron in there, it'll bring it out too. And then as the water passes down through the tank, it gets held in by the media. And then when it backwashes, it cleans that out, sucks in air again, and it's good to go again. So of course the beauty of the system is totally chemical free. Don't have to use chlorine or any of those other chemicals in the water, and of course there's no consumables. You don't have to add anything to it. It's just cleans itself every 3 days and goes on from there. So so again, why would someone want this? Is because, like I say, you've got sulfur in your water. So one thing to consider when you're investing in one of these they're called air over media sulfur and iron filters, is you need to look for something that's non-proprietary. What do I mean by proprietary? Proprietary like brands, like Culligan or Connecticut or brands like that. So those are proprietary. Why is it a bad idea to buy proprietary? First of all, they're more expensive initially. Secondly, they're more expensive to get parts for, and of course you can only get parts from them, which is why the parts are more expensive. So they can pretty much charge whatever they want, right? Because you have to come back to them for the parts. And so with the advantage of non-proprietary, you can get all kinds of information online. Is that like all of our products are non-proprietary. So because of that, we have YouTube videos that explain how they work, YouTube videos how to service them, YouTube videos on how to repair them and troubleshoot them. So you're much better off with a non-proprietary product. And like I say, of course, you can get the manuals and all that stuff online. So it's much easier to do that. So, but there's a process that you go through for selecting what sulfur and or iron filter you have, because often sulfur and iron are together. And so there's a bit of a process. So I've got a great YouTube video, and again, I'll put a link in the description down below that you can watch to help you determine which one is best for you based on your sulfur amount that you have and based on the iron amount that you have. And one of the things that's critical when choosing one of those is you need to know the flow rate from your well pump. In other words, how quickly your pump can pump, how many gallons per minute your pump can pump through the system, because that's very important for when it backwashes to clean it out. And so that's a critical thing that you need to find out with those. And I should mention too, if you're wondering in terms of how to contact us, you can contact us right here. You can go to our email, info@waterestore. Whether you're in Canada or the US, it's the same email address. Just send us an email, and then from there we can help you determine exactly what you need. We get tons of emails every single day from folks just like yourself that aren't sure what they need to fix their concern about their water, and then we fix it from there. So let's see if we're getting any more questions coming in here, comments, and keep them coming. That's the purpose of this whole live stream, is we want to have your comments. And all right. Nuthi 20. Can water softener turn water yellow if left alone on a weekend? My toilet water tank turned yellow. Water softener turn your water yellow. It can turn your water yellow if it sits dormant for a long period of time. And what I mean is months, not just over the weekend. I would say if you've got a water softener and the water was nice and clear in your toilet and then you left it over a weekend and it started to turn color, that would tell me that you probably have more iron in your water than your water softener can handle. So water softeners can remove iron, but they can only remove up to 1 part per million of iron. Once you get over that, then what happens is the water softener can't handle it. There's some left in the water, and the water may come out of the faucet clear, but as it sits, that iron that remains in the water gets oxidized out, and then your water turns color. So I would suspect that's probably what's happening here. But thanks for that question. That was great. And Mopor Scott says, I had sulfur in mine, and the water treatment company here installed a carbon backwash filter with peroxide injection as well. Yeah, and that's one way of doing it. That's a chemical injection system, and if that works for you, great. We don't do chemical injection systems. We do everything chemical free. And we've had some great success with that. I would say 99.99% of all the customers that we've ever helped, we've been able to do it without going with a chemical injection system. Typically, the only time we recommend a chemical injection system is when they have iron bacteria. And iron bacteria is not iron plus bacteria, that's iron bacteria, one thing. It's a slime in the water, and you can see it. If you open up the back of your toilet tank and you see a slime floating on top of the water, that's iron bacteria. But typically, we can get around it. But that is another way, because the hydrogen peroxide oxidizes out the the sulfur from the water, and then the carbon filter is what removes the hydrogen peroxide from your water. That's basically how it works. But yeah, that's another way of doing it. And we got one here from MyTube who says, a full 1054 filter of carbon media sort out the sulfur without the peroxide. Pretty rare that would work. I mean, if your sulfur content was really low and you were really lucky, it might work, but typically that doesn't work. Years ago, when I started in this industry over 24 years ago, you know, that was kind of what they were doing. They were putting in carbon filters to get rid of, just carbon filters, just to get rid of sulfur from the water, and it almost never worked. And we were just happy just to get into the air injection systems at that time. Of course, there's been a lot better systems now to use air to oxidize that out. But chemicals can oxidize it out too. And New V20. This started to happen to me after reinstalling a new water softener. It never happened before. Yeah, like I say, when they're brand new, if you don't backwash them long enough, you can get color from the media, because when the media water first flows through a water softener, you can get color from that media. So that's not at all unknown. So keep those questions coming, folks. We'll get back to the questions in just a second. And let me go here. Great, but those are some great questions. And true, you know, like we have 450 YouTube videos out there, and lots of great topics, all kinds of things. And I definitely encourage you to subscribe, because that way you'll know about the new videos they become available. Typically, we release a new video every single week, and that way you'll know that when one comes available, that may be a topic that you just needed some information on. And so what's number 9? Well, this is number 9 right here. This is a Hume chloramine filter. So this is for folks that are on city water. So you may have heard of chlorine before on city water, but you may not have heard of chloramine. So what are chloramines? Chloramines is when a municipality adds chlorine to your water and ammonia. Why do they do that? Because what happens is when you add chlorine to your water, if you let the water sit out or the water sits for a while, air gets to it, oxidizes out, the chlorine residual disappears fairly quickly. If you add ammonia to it, that makes that chlorine stick longer, and it doesn't oxidize out very easily. So why do municipalities do it? To save money. By adding that ammonia to it, it makes the chlorine go a lot further. Like I say, it makes it hang around longer as a disinfectant. Is that good? Not really, because do you really want to be drinking water that's got chlorine and ammonia in it? Of course not. So you need to remove it. Well, you know, if it's just chlorine in your water as a disinfectant, you can Pour the water into a glass, set it on a counter. The air oxidizes out the chlorine, and then you can drink that water chlorine-free, you know, after an hour or two. But when you've got chloramines in your water, that won't happen. It won't oxidize out. So you need a different kind of a filter, and it needs to have a different kind of carbon inside it. Centaur carbon or catalytic carbon inside it to capture those chloramines and then backwash it every few days. So this has become very, very popular in cities now because more and more and more cities are switching from just chlorine to chlorine and ammonia, in other words, chloramines in their water. So, and folks want to get rid of it. I was just talking with a fellow earlier today from Florida, and he's looking to get rid of that bleach smell in his water. And we looked it up. Sure enough, they got chloramines in their water. So, again, if you've got chlorine in your water, should you just go with a carbon filter? Well, maybe. The problem is your municipality might switch over to adding ammonia very soon to save cost, like I said, and then that carbon filter won't remove that chlorine anymore. So you really need a chloramine filter, and that's why these have become so popular. All right, and so again, this is for city water. And again, when you're thinking about investing in one of these, what I mentioned earlier, and you're going to find that common theme throughout this whole live stream, is proprietary versus non-proprietary. Much more important to go with non-proprietary because, as I mentioned earlier, you can get parts for it much less costly at the beginning and much less costly in the long run. And there's more support for you do-it-yourself types. And if you want to learn more about chloramines in your water, again, I've got a great YouTube video. I'll put a link in the description down below that you can check it out to learn more about that. And all right, so we're heading into number 8. Keep those questions coming. I'm going to break pretty soon for some questions, but keep them coming. So what's number 8? Right here, it says Hume's. It's one of our Hume sediment filters. And by the way, when I say, you see the H-U-M, lots of folks say hum, and I understand why. It's actually H-U with a little bar across the U, and it's pronounced Hume. Hume is our own private label brand. And so what happens is we look at all the non-proprietary products out there, and we look at what's the best of the best. In other words, not the most expensive, not the most bells and whistles, not the cheapest, but what's made in North America, and most of our Hume products are made in North America. This one definitely is. Actually, all the ones we've seen so far are all made in North America. But we look at something that offers some great performance. It's going to last you a long time, 20 years plus. All the things we've talked about here so far are going to last you 20 years plus. Actually, I think everything on this list is going to last you 20 years plus. But you can get parts for them. You can service them easily yourself. There's lots of DIY information on them. And so this is a sediment filter. So this is primarily for folks on lake water. So what's happened is in the last few years with COVID and that kind of thing, a lot more folks have been, or a lot more families have been going to their cottages or their cabins and that kind of thing. Well, if you're drawing water from surface water like a lake or a river or something like that, there's a lot of debris in there. So you need something to do the heavy lifting to backwash out that debris. So what's become very popular now for, like I say, cottages and cabins is that they go with an ultraviolet disinfection system. We'll be talking about some of those a little bit later. But the problem is when you get to those, the water has to be nice and clear. There has to have no sediment in the water, that kind of thing. And these, although you still need cartridges before the ultraviolet disinfection system, these do the heavy lifting. And you might hear about people saying, oh yeah, I got filters on my cottage. I have to change them every second weekend. That's because there's so much dirt that's being sucked up through there. So if you go with one of these automatic backwashing filters, often you only have to change the filters once a year or once a season because they do the heavy lifting, and then you've got those cartridge filters after that. So that's number 8. And as usual, and again, if you want to find out some more information about those and how they work and that kind of thing, at the end of this, I'll put some links in the down below in the description, and you can check that out. And again, keep those questions coming. Put them in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and we'll go with that. And great. So let's see what we have here for some questions. I don't think I answered this. My tube, a carbon filter 10 by 54. Hume would sort out the sulfur without the peroxide? Yeah, absolutely. And you're from Ireland? Great. I really appreciate you joining us today. Yeah, that's the thing, is that it sucks in air through the top and then it oxidizes out that sulfur smell. And totally chemical free. So like I say, they're a really great system and they've been very, very popular for us. And start after reinstalling a new water. Oh, okay, right. Sorry, we talked about that one before. Sorry. Hot Sun. Welcome, Hot Sun. That was quick. Best water filtration for iron in southwest Montana. Stains toilets and such. You know, we've been getting a lot of stuff from Montana. A lot of families have been sending us information. And, you know, it's the same procedure I recommend to everyone. We have, if you go onto our website and you go toward the top of the website, sorry, I can't show you that on the screen here, but if you go toward the top where it has the different sections, and you'll see they'll have a section there that says talk about testing your water, having your water tested. And if you click on that, it'll take you to a page. Now what you can do is you can have your water tested. And the reason I'm talking about this is that water, some people have iron, some people don't have iron. Some people have got hard water, some people have super hard water. Well, we really need to know what exactly you have in your water, and we also need to know how much water you use and that kind of thing. So we've got our water analysis page, and on that page it's got some great information and has some sheets that we get you to fill out. If you're on well water, there's a certain sheet. It's actually a form that you can fill out right on the right on that page and submit it. But we ask him, and we need to know how hard your water is, how much iron there has, and that kind of thing. So you can go to a local lab and have it tested. You can go to a local water filtration company and have it tested, or you can mail us a sample of your water and we'll test it for you for free. Once we know what's in your water, once we know more about your situation, like how many people in your household, how much, you know, that would tell us how much water you use. We will probably, if you have iron and sulfur, we'll probably need to know the flow rate from your well pump. Once we have that kind of information, then we can make a great recommendation for you and your family what you need to fix that problem. And we also ask on those forms what concerns you about your water. So we're actually addressing what your concern is. But again, go to our websites, and toward the top of the page, it'll have some information there. Actually, let me just see if I can quickly get in there and show that on screen. If I go here, does that work? Nope. Sorry about that. Here, nope. There. Actually, if I go there. So if you look here on the website, if you go at the top section here, and you scroll over here, you see over here where it says free water test evaluation. And then what you do is you just scroll down through here, and it has these, has some information but it has this form here where you can fill out. And once you fill it out, you submit it, and we'll get that form. Let me go back so you can see me. And we'll get that form, and then from there, like I say, we can give you some great advice of what to do and to move ahead on that. So, but great question, and folks, please keep those questions coming. That's what we're here for you today. So let me see what else we've got here. MSUNHO, sorry, I don't know. How to treat well water with high sulfate and uranium content. That one, you'll have to contact us. And I've got some, where's our contact information here? So if you can go to info@waterestore.com and send us an email. I don't often deal with this kind of thing, uranium and that kind of thing. So I would need you to, I would need you to send me an email so I can work on that for you. So what happens is when I come across something I don't deal with on an ongoing basis, I check with the tech support people from our suppliers and the manufacturers, and they can help us. They deal with folks all across North America, and they can help with things like uranium or arsenic or things like that. Arsenic we deal with quite often these days, but uranium, usually uranium, from what I recall from when we did some work with it before, reverse osmosis drinking water system is what you need to get rid of it. or if it's if you're looking for a whole house solution, whole house reverse osmosis system will definitely do the job. High sulfates, yeah, definitely reverse osmosis system. But in a situation like that, you definitely need to have a lab test done. You need to have your water submitted to a lab and have them do a full printout so we know exactly how much uranium, how much sulfate, but also how hard the water is, how much iron, what the pH is, all that kind of stuff. So we can figure it out for you properly. Mopar Scott's got another question. Whoops. There you go. In Indiana. Welcome. I am single and my new water softener offers about 1,000 gallons of treated water after each regeneration. On-demand mode, almost a month. Yeah, month goes by. Should it be on days? Yeah, so I don't know what make of water softener you have, Mopar Scott, but our Hume water softeners all use the Clack WS1 valve. And the Clack WS1 valve has metered mode, which everybody uses, but it also has an override. So, and the override we use is 14 days. So in other words, we set it on metered, so you use your water, but if you haven't used up its capacity until you hit 14 days, then it automatically regenerates. And if you have a Clack WS1, I definitely encourage you to check out my settings videos that go through that. But I would definitely recommend that you have it regenerate after 14 days because you'll have problems with the media long term. You won't get the life out of the water softener. And that's also an interesting point too, is that we don't want to oversize water softeners, because if we oversize water softeners and they don't regenerate often enough, it can cause longevity concerns with the water softener. But thanks for that question. It was a great one. I appreciate it. And Newfie20 says, how many times should we flush a soft water system after installing it to keep the media from coloring the water? Well, it should only be 2 or 3 times that you'd have to do that. And you know, generally the rule of thumb would be if you're still seeing water, then regenerate it again. But yeah, so keep those questions coming, folks. And we're up to number 7. And what's number 7? Oh, sorry, what's a big buildup there? Is a tannin filter. So what are tannins? So tannins is that weak tea color in your water, often mistaken by junior water filtration people or people that haven't been in the business very long, or your friends, your neighbors, your family. They'll say, oh, your water's brown, you got iron. Well, it might be iron, but it may very well be tannins too. And and you have to be careful with that. And you might have both iron and tannins. So there's ways for us to test to find out what you have. And again, a lab test would definitely reveal what you have. So if you do have water that comes out of the tap brown already, I'm not talking about water that comes out of the tap with no color, and then when it sits and turns brown, that's iron. But when it comes out of the tap with some color already, that may be iron and or tannins. And you really should have that checked out by a lab. Or like I say, send us a water sample, as I mentioned earlier, and we can test it for you. So if you're looking at this picture I've got up on the screen here right now, you're probably going to say, hey, that looks a whole lot like a water softener. And you're right. A tannin filter looks exactly like a water softener. The only difference is what's inside the media tank, which of course you don't see. And with a tannin filter, they've become very popular, again, because, you know, since COVID, a lot of folks have been moving into their cottages and their cabins and things like that. And when they're only up there on the weekends or a couple of weeks during the summertime, that water that looked like someone didn't flush the toilet after using it wasn't such a big deal. But when folks are living there full time, or they're tearing down that old cottage or cabin, building a beautiful big year-round type home on that property, or they've decided to live there full time, that color in the water is definitely a concern. And the staining it leaves behind is definitely a concern. So the biggest difference between a water softener and a tannin filter in terms of operationally is that a tannin filter needs to regenerate every 3 days. So we talked a little bit earlier with Mopar Scott about how often his water softener was regenerating or cleaning itself, and he said his was going a month. So, but with a tannin filter, it has to go every 3 days, and it's also metered. So a 1 cubic foot tannin filter typically gives you 500 gallons of capacity, or 3 days, whatever comes first. So yes, a tannin filter does use a lot more salt than a water softener does, but it definitely works, and it does a fantastic job of removing that color. We've been dealing with tannins for since I started in the business, actually 22, 23 years. There's several communities around our local area here that have tannins in the water, and we've been dealing with that. And you know, and again, I've got a great YouTube video that talks a little bit more about tannins, and it even has a home test that you can do yourself to help determine whether you've got tannins and or iron in your water. And it's a good little test. I wouldn't say you should base everything off of it, but at least it'll give you some indication of what could be going on with your water. And again, you know, please keep submitting those questions. I'm going to be answering some more of them very soon, but keep them coming, folks. And number 6, what's number 6? Probably some of you folks are saying out there, come on, Gary, there's got to be some water softeners in here. And you're right, that's exactly what it is. So number 6 is our Hume 45,000 grain water softener. So 45,000 grain is 1.5 cubic feet. So for a larger family, like 4 to 5 people, and an area that has very hard water, like 20 to 30 grains per gallon or something like that. Or, like I say, a family that's much larger, or a smaller family that has much harder water. That's kind of what you're looking for with one of these. Again, they're totally metered water softener. It has that override every 14 days if you haven't used up its capacity. It has a power cell backup. It's made in North America. It comes with a neoprene sweat jacket so that you don't get that in the summer months when you've got that humid weather. You don't have that condensation forming on the outside, running down and ruining your floor. They're a great system. The technology's been around for almost 20 years, but it's still the industry standard. You still see all kinds of new water softener brands coming out based on that same Clack WS1 valve. They've changed some of the programming over the years, the different configurations of the buttons, and but it's a great product. It's like I say, it's a great product, and you certainly can't go wrong with one of them. And as you can see, it's our 6th most popular water filtration product of the year. And you can see that they're very easy to install, last you 20 to 25 years, no problem. Might even last longer, but I've only been in the business for 23 years, so I can't I can't tell you if it's going to last 24 years or longer, but I'm sure they will. And super easy to install, super easy to troubleshoot, super easy to maintain. And again, we got a ton of YouTube videos about it. So, all right, what else can I tell you about this? Oh, and you know, a lot of folks. Let me just push this button here. A lot of folks don't know how a water softener works. They kind of think they do, but they don't. And one of my most popular videos is how a water softener works. I definitely encourage you, whether you're shopping for a water softener or not shopping for a water softener, I definitely encourage you to check out that video. And again, I'll put a link in the description down below. But, you know, you may have some assumptions about how they work, but it doesn't hurt to check that out. And I guess the other big thing about water softeners is all the myths out there. I did this video not that long ago about the myths because I was tired about answering all the same questions all the same time about some of the myths out there. Is it going to ruin my septic system? No. You know, like all these questions about, you know, does it add a lot of salt to my water? Am I going to be drinking salt water? No. You know, all these kinds of things. And that was a fun little video. And again, I definitely encourage you to check that out. And keep those questions coming, and let's see what we got here. Oh, answered that one already. This one. Hot Sun, thank you. Great explanation of what's needed to determine a solution. Oh, you're welcome, Hot Sun. And like I say, that's something we do every single day. We get all these emails in all the time, and where people are saying, I've got this concern with my water, I got that concern with my water. What do I need to fix it? And we're happy to do the explanation. We're happy to make recommendations. We're happy to send you a draft order so you know exactly what you need to fix it. We can ship it to you. We offer free shipping in Canada, free shipping in the US, and then you just have a local plumber install it. And again, that's happy to do that. And Mopar Scott has another question, and he says, I have a 5-stage RO system in the basement. Oh, great. That's good. But was hooked up still to the water line under the kitchen sink. Cold supply in kitchen is hard. Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I can see where this is going. Should it be hooked up to soft, and how is that done? Yeah, great question, Mopar Scott. And I see this happening fairly often. At some point, because often water filtration homes evolve, right? One owner puts in a water softener, another owner puts in a reverse osmosis drinking water system. Maybe you're on well water, somebody else puts in an ultraviolet light, and then the equipment isn't in the right order, you know, and that becomes a big problem. So basically what you do, to answer your question, Mopar Scott, is that you just make sure that the supply line is hooked up to any cold water line. So there could be a cold water line that's going to your laundry sink, or a cold water line that's going somewhere else. All you need to do is hook up to any cold water line, and not a hot water line though. Don't hook up to that. It's got to be a cold water line, and but you're far better off. In fact, reverse osmosis systems, the membrane, which is the most expensive filter in a reverse osmosis system, will become coated with scale if you use hard water or water with iron in it, and then it'll stop working, or you'd have to replace it a whole lot more often. So yes, you definitely want to use soft water for your reverse osmosis system. Thanks for that question. It was a great one. Let's move on. So, number 5 is another one of our iron and sulfur filters. So this is our FOK. So we have 3 kinds of iron and sulfur filters. An FOC, which works best for high amounts of sulfur and a little bit of iron or no iron. We have an FOB, which is kind of for some iron and some sulfur. Or we have an FOK, which works FOB is some sulfur but higher amounts of iron. And then we've got an FOK, which is the newest technology. K stands for Catalox. So C in the FOC stands for catalytic carbon. B for in berm, FOB stands for berm. And K stands for Catalox. So Catalox is the newest media. So it's a great media. So it works on a far greater span of pH than the FOCs and the FOBs work on. It removes more iron and more sulfur than the FOC and the FOBs, and it also removes sediment from your water. So if you have a lot of sediment in your water, you wouldn't need an automatic backwashing sediment filter in addition to the FOK. The FOK will also do the heavy lifting of the sediment from your water. So it does a lot. What are the negatives? Is it more expensive? Of course it's more expensive. Not that much more expensive, but it's more expensive. But the other thing you have to be really careful of with an FOK, actually with all of them, is we need to know the flow rate from your well pump. Because what happens is when it goes through its backwash cycle every 3 days, it needs to have enough flow to be able to lift the media inside that, to mix it all up, to be able to get to flush all the debris out. And the FOK requires the highest flow rate from your well pump compared to the FOC and the FOB, which is one of the reasons why we need that information. And remember, I had mentioned that a little bit earlier in the presentation. So great. So FOK has become very, very popular. And let me just slide that back over there. And so like I said, getting rid of higher amounts of sulfur, higher amounts of iron. Years ago, the amounts of iron and sulfur that an FOK can get rid of is much higher than an FOC and FOB. So we were in situations years ago where we had to go with chemical injection to get rid of these high amounts of iron and sulfur. But with the FOK, we can go that much higher now. Same with pH. We were limited to a pH of 6.8 or higher for the FOC and FOB. But with the FOK, we can go all the way down to a pH of 6.0. So again, it's much more versatile. So like I said, they've become very, very popular. And again, totally non-proprietary product. One of our Hume products, made in North America, super easy to service, super easy to troubleshoot. Great product. And yeah, so again, I was talking a little bit earlier about our Hume products. So I've got a great YouTube video that explains the Hume products, but basically it's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's the just right product. It's the products that we use in our own homes. Like all of the water, I'm on well water, all the water filtration in my home, got an iron and sulfur filter, I've got a water softener, got a UV system, I've got a reverse osmosis drinking water system, and they're all Hume products. And they're definitely not the most expensive. And they're non-proprietary. You can easily service them yourself. You can easily install them yourself, and it's great. And like I say, I've got a a YouTube video that talks about that. And again, I'll put a link in the description down below so you can check that out if you choose to. And great. So what about number 4, you ask? Well, it's funny you should ask. Our Hume Cottage Water 75. So this is a relatively new product. So we've had our Hume Water Saver 75 reverse osmosis system, I guess for about 7 or 8 years, made in North America product, totally non-proprietary. So what that means, and this is really important when it comes to a reverse osmosis system, because the membrane and the filters, the membrane is the most expensive filter at the top, the membranes and the filters of proprietary systems are brutally expensive. Like, I mean, can be 3 to 4 to 5 times as much as a non-proprietary system. This is a non-proprietary system. So the replacement filters are relatively inexpensive. The systems are relatively inexpensive. Yeah, there's cheaper ones out there. Absolutely. You can go on Amazon and you can buy 5-stage reverse osmosis systems for pretty much half the price that you can buy for our Hume Water Saver 75s, but they aren't made in North America. They don't have the high quality John Guest fittings. They don't have all that other stuff. But what makes this Hume Cottage Water 75 so special is that black thing you kind of see in the middle, and that's an ultraviolet light. So in situations like in cottages, cabins, or in situations where you don't want to have all the water in your whole home, cottage, or cabin go through an ultraviolet light, you know, some people say, I don't care if all the water that I'm showering in is bacteria free. I just want to make sure the water I'm drinking is bacteria free. You know, or you're on a solar system or something like that, where you've got limited hydro, off the grid, something like that. These have become very, very popular for a number of reasons, because the ultraviolet light is just on the water coming from the reverse osmosis system, so just your drinking water. But the real key to this system, and what I really like about it, is this ultraviolet light turns on when it senses water movement and shuts off when it doesn't. So because of that, it's on for a very short period of time. So because of that, it uses almost no hydro whatsoever. Power. It uses no electricity whatsoever. So so that's a really, really big feature. The other thing with this thing is that this UV light will last 5,000 hours. Now, I tested this out in my home for my family, and I figured 5,000 hours is about 30 years, 30 years of use. And there's no light bulb to change in this. There's no service to do in this. The only thing you have to be careful of is that you have to totally clean up the water before it goes through this the UV light. So the UV light is after the reverse osmosis system. But this Cottage Water 75 reverse osmosis system also contains a tannin filter. So again, if you have those tannins in your water, and you're not really all that hung up about if you got tannins in your shower or tannins in your toilet, but you definitely don't want it in your drinking water, that's why the Cottage Water 75 has become so popular. We've only had the product, like I say, about a year, maybe a little over a year, but they've become super popular, especially this summer. All right, so let's see. And again, you know, like we talked about with the water softener, if you're not sure about how they work, if you're ever wondering about how a reverse osmosis drinking water system works, again, I got a great YouTube video about that. And again, there'll be a link down below where you can check that out. And and you know, we talked a little bit earlier about water softener myths. Well, guess what? There's all kinds of reverse osmosis myths too. And as tough as that is to say. Anyway, I've got a great YouTube video. Actually, I've done a couple of videos on myths and misconceptions of reverse osmosis systems. I definitely encourage you to check that out. And we got some questions coming in here. Let's see what we got here. Oh. I could be wrong. Mopar Scott asked, can you show us at the end all of the actual filters you have behind and tell us what they are? I can. This is only a small sampling, to be honest. I did a video not that long ago, Mopar Scott, and I'll do that, no problem. But I did a video not that long ago where I went through a whole range of water filters. Actually, I think it might have only gone live last week or the week before, and it was called what's the best water filter for your family or something like that. And it basically talked about looking at the water filter cartridges and looking at the different kinds that are available on the market. But absolutely, Mopar, we'll do that. And great, let's move on. Number 3, what's number 3? 30,000 grain water softener. And again, it's our Hume 30,000 grain water softener. So again, all the same stuff I've been talking about so far. Non-proprietary, made in North America, neoprene sweat jacket, all that kind of stuff is definitely there. Power cell backup, fully metered, with a 14-day override, all that stuff is there. Now, one thing I found that's really peculiar in the US especially, you know, we have a Canadian e-commerce store and a US e-commerce store, and I'm finding in the US, a lot of people have been sold water softeners that are too big. And then they end up in a situation like Mopar Scott, where they're not generating often enough, so they have to change the override. So now they're going through more salt than they should have because they bought a system that's too big. They've got, like Mopar Scott, 30 days of capacity from that water softener, but to keep it healthy, it's got to regenerate every 14 days. So basically, we're wasting 14 days of capacity. And I found that when I go through the calculations and suggest to a lot of families that a 30,000 grain water softener is big enough for them, they say, oh, well, I used to have a 2 cubic foot, which is a 60,000 grain water softener, which is way too big, you know. So it's really important to look at how hard your water is, find out how many people you have in your family, how much iron you have in your water, see if we need to compensate for that. Find out if you got manganese in your water, see if we have to compensate for that, and then size the water softener properly. And again, got some great YouTube videos that talk about sizing water softeners. And I definitely encourage you to check that out. And again, I got a great YouTube video about hard water explained. What is hard water? What is the cause? And this thumbnail that you see, that pipe I'm holding, that's a 2-inch diameter pipe. That's from a local apartment building that they had no hot water. No hot water at all. They couldn't figure out why. And so the plumber cut the pipe. Took him a long time to cut the pipe, and this is what was inside. It was totally clogged with layer after layer after layer of scale from the hard water, and it totally clogged the pipe. And again, you know, we've got some great YouTube videos on installation, but water softener installation, iron and sulfur filter installation. Got lots of great information about that. And I make it as simple as possible. We've even got some YouTube videos that show you how to do it without soldering. You can use shark bite fittings. You can use threaded fittings, all kinds of stuff on there. So definitely encourage all you do-it-yourselfers out there to check it out. And keep those questions coming. Love to answer them all to you. And again, you know, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I definitely encourage you to do. A lot of great information, 450 videos on there, and you'll be notified whenever a new video becomes available. What's number 2, you're asking? Well, it's funny you should ask. And this is our Hume Water Saver 75. So this is the basic version of our Water Saver 75. It's for municipal water. It's for well water after you've already softened it and gotten rid of the iron, etc. in well water. This can work on hard water. It can, but you're going to have more maintenance. So as we were talking about with Mopar Scott, it's going to require more maintenance. So this has been super successful for us. You'd be amazed how many folks invest in one of these because they're so easy to service, they're so easy to install, they're so inexpensive to long term, and they're such high quality. This is a 20-year product, and if you're wondering what's Gary got in his house, this is the reverse osmosis system that I have in my house, and I love it. It works out great. It really does. It removes 90% of the minerals in your water, not 100%, 90%. So there's still some minerals left in the water, but also gets rid of all those things like those forever chemicals we're hearing about all of a sudden. PFAS, PFOS, you know, all the byproducts from making things like Teflon and things like that. It removes fluoride, removes estrogen from the water, removes asbestos, microplastics, all that stuff. Basically how they work is that water is forced under pressure through a membrane. It's like a skin, and the good low mineral content water goes through, gets stored in the tank. The high mineral content water is used to flush that membrane to keep it clean, and then it goes on from there. Once the tank's full, the back pressure tells it to shut off. It shuts off, and you go from there. So whether you're on city water, do you need a reverse osmosis system? Absolutely. Get rid of those chemicals in the water. Get rid of the And when I say chemicals, I mean chlorine, of course, but I also mean things like chloramines, PFAS, you know, all those other chemicals like that. But it will also get rid of lead, yes. Will it also get rid of arsenic? Yes. Will it also get rid of sodium, salt in your water? Yes. You know, so that's why they're so important for city water. What about well water? Well water, we don't have chlorine in the water, right? No, we don't. But we do have all kinds of other stuff in the water too. And so like I say, we could have sodium in the water. We could have lead in the water. We could have arsenic. Much more likely to have arsenic on well water than it would be in city water. And we can have high mineral content in the water, super high amounts of minerals. And again, the reverse osmosis system will reduce it by 90%. What about lake water? Should you have a reverse? Absolutely. It gives you a second barrier against bacteria. You know, so it's absolutely critical to have that. And again, I've got, if you're thinking about investing in a reverse osmosis system for your family and you're wondering about doing the installation, can I do it myself? Do I need to hire somebody? Again, I got a great YouTube video that talks about that, and some great information there. And what about maintaining it yourself? Absolutely, you can do that. Super easy to do. And again, I got a YouTube video. Since you're only maintaining these things once a year, a lot of folks, what they do is they just watch the video just before they're going to maintain it, order their filters. A lot of folks now are subscribing to get their filters delivered to them every year, so that when it's time to change the filters, all of a sudden the filters show up. They watch the video, they do the maintenance, they're good to go for another year. Very popular. Again, keep those questions coming. And if you know, and again, I mentioned earlier where I got this information from to compile this list, and we're almost at number 1, by the way, to compile this list of the top 10 water filtration products in North America. I got it from our website, and where's our website here? Right here. So waterestore.com in the US, waterestore.ca in Canada. And again, we offer free shipping and discount pricing. And so I tabulated up all the products that we've sold over the last year, and the top 10 are on this list. So let's see here. And I don't have a drum roll, but I do have this. So for our number 1, what's our number 1? Here it is. Our Hume Safe Water 10 Ultraviolet Disinfection System. What? What do you mean? It's not a reverse osmosis system? Nope, it's not a reverse osmosis system. It's an ultraviolet disinfection system for those on well and on lake water. And again, the amount of folks that are leaving the city and going on to wells and things like that, it's become extremely popular to make sure all the water in your home, cottage, or cabin is safe and bacteria free. And this Hume Safe Water 10, this is a product we've handled for, I guess 10 or 12 years now. Again, it's made in North America. Again, it's non-proprietary. Again, it's super easy to install. It's one of our Hume products, so there's not a lot of bells and whistles. You know, the kind of stuff that goes wrong. It lasts a long time. It's like I say, easy to install. It comes totally assembled the way you see it here. Water flows in one. Actually, let me get over here. It comes totally assembled. Water flows in one side, flows out the other side. So all you do is cut your pipe, plumb it in, plumb it out, hook up the electrical, plug it in, disinfect your plumbing, and you're ready to go. I mean, they're super easy to install. It's a great way to protect your family and to get away from carrying water in or buying cases of bottled water or things like that for your family. So, but that's number 1, folks. Now, if we go back to that original survey, like I say, I think only 8% of the folks, I think it was around 100 people that voted, only 8% actually chose the ultraviolet disinfection system. I think 49% chose reverse osmosis, but it did come in second. And there was a couple of reverse osmosis systems that were definitely in the top 10. So yeah, it's a very popular system. That's the same one that's in my house. And again, if you're looking for more information about how these things work, got a great YouTube video on that. Yes, I know Gary's got a great YouTube video on everything. And installation, again, super easy to do. And we can definitely do that, and super easy to maintain too. And again, we talked a little bit earlier about mailing us a water sample. If you want to know where to do that, this is our address. I'll leave it on the screen a little bit longer so you can definitely check that out. And while I'm doing that, I'll just answer a couple more questions that we have up here. And Mopar Scott asked, what is the fitting called to go from copper to RO tubing so I can move the inlet to soft water? You can get a supply fitting. So you'd put a T in the line, and then there's a fitting that you can get that's a shut-off fitting that takes it from half-inch copper, and you can even get them shark bite type fittings that takes it down to quarter-inch PEX or quarter-inch quick connect. And you know, I've seen them at Home Depot. I've seen them at Rona has them. I've seen them all over. I don't know exactly what they're called. My plumber or my installer carries them, where he just cuts the pipe and he puts it in like literally like a shark bite fitting. Fits the pipe together. It's got a shut off on it, and it's good to go. But I don't know exactly what that fitting is called. I'm sorry, but okay, great, folks. So Mopar Scott asked for some. Yes, ask for some more information on some of the filters behind me, and I'd be happy to share with you folks. So, this is an absolute filter. So what this does, this filters down to 1 micron absolute. So what's the difference between an absolute filter and just plain 1 micron? 1 micron is approximately 1 micron. This makes sure it's exactly 1 micron or less. So they make sure that it's made to higher standards. So where would you use this? In a situation, first of all, you wouldn't be first in line because it would clog very, very quickly. It would be toward the end of the line. And so in situations where you've got like a lot of silt in the water or that kind of thing in the water, you'd have this last in line to get rid of that silt. You know, that gray sort of silt? That's where you would use something like that. This is a tannin filter. Wait a second. I showed you a different tannin filter in the video, didn't I? I said it looked like a water softener, and that's right. This is only used for very peculiar situations. Situations where you're almost never there. You go to the cabin maybe 1 or 2 weekends a year. Only on the weekend there's only 2 or 3 people. And the reason why is that this filter cartridge is only good for 700 gallons of water, which isn't a lot of water. And 2 people could burn through that in about a week. So, and it's a very expensive filter. So only very particular situations you'd use that. This is a 10-inch 2005. So what this is a dual gradient filter. So it's 25 microns on the outside, 1 micron in the inside. So what it does is the outside catches the big stuff, the logs and the frogs, and the inside you still get that fine filtration. So it's a great filter. It's available in the 10-inch and also the 20-inch, but only in the big blue size, 4.5 inches in diameter. And what else have I got here? This is a PB1. So this is a lead filter, but it does more than just lead. So this also goes down to 1, is it 1 micron or half a micron? Yeah, 0.5 micron nominal filtration. So this is a very fine filter. So again, this would be last in line. But what I like about this filter is that this is more for lake water and things like that, where you want to make sure because it also removes lead and cyst reduction. It also removes odor. It's a taste and odor filter. But again, it's a relatively expensive filter. But if you want to make sure that there's no cysts in that when you're drawing water from a lake, that's a good filter. And got this granulated activated carbon filter here. And we got a whole pile of other stuff. So Mopar Scott, I hope that works for you. Again, I'm going to encourage you to check out that other video. And if you want to put something in the comments in case I forget, I'll put a link I'll add a link to the comments where you can find that other filter about choosing the best kind of replacement filters for your family. And so I'm going to thank all of you for watching. I do new videos every week, as I said, and upcoming live streams will be promoted on the community tab of my channel. So if you go to GaryTheWaterGuy.com, that's my YouTube channel. If you scroll across to where it says community, you'll see the polls I put up there and the other information. Thank you very much for watching today. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate every one of you subscribing. And please, if you like what you see, share it on Facebook or wherever else you're on social media. And again, thanks for watching.